Hello and welcome. These words are from Lindsay Higgins. She sent these words to Karen Reed. I unfortunately do not have the entire message. I took two screenshots from a news station that was reporting on Lindsay Higgins, her interview. And in that interview, Lindsay Higgins said that she dated John O'Keefe a few months before Karen Reed started dating John O'Keefe. And Lindsay reached out to Karen Reed in support of her to tell her that she believes she's innocent. So I will read the two screenshots. It's not much. But again, if I come across the full message, I will make an update video. So the message that Lindsay Higgins sent to Karen Reed begins, handful of months before you guys started dating. I just wanted to reach out with a message of support and sympathy. I've thought about you a lot over the last year, and my heart breaks for you. I've tried to put myself in your shoes and can't even imagine the pain, sadness, loneliness, anger, and abandonment you must feel. I just want to give you the biggest hug! ! From the start, I knew something wasn't adding up. These dark roads will lead you to a light at the end of the tunnel. You are a beautiful, smart, and strong woman, and you will come out on top of all of this. And I will share the second screenshot, but I just want to stop there to say, like, that what a beautiful soul. What a selfless soul Lindsay Higgins has to reach out to Karen Reed like this, knowing what Karen Reed is being accused of, knowing that Karen Reed dated John O'Keefe, Lindsay Higgins' ex, and yet Lindsay Higgins is like many of us. We are observing the case. We are observing the news reports around this time, and before trial began, and we just know things are not adding up. And Lindsay Higgins herself, a former girlfriend of John O'Keefe, also felt like things were not adding up. And she is sending Karen Reed strength and love through her words. Just a lot of props to Lindsay Higgins. And it continues. All I know, as I'm sure you do, is JJ would never want you to have to go through this. I keep writing this message and rewriting this over and over again. I don't want to say too much or too little. And that's all I could capture, guys. So again, if I come across the full message, I will make an update video. Yeah, and I have felt that way too. I don't know John O'Keefe. I never met the guy. But, people, they say he was referred to as JJ. And in this message, Lindsay Higgins refers to him as JJ. And she says JJ would never want you to have to go through this. And I have felt that way. Like, there's no way John O'Keefe would want Karen Reed to be suffering through this. He, like I've said before, he must be turning in his own grave at everything that's happened. And also knowing that the real culprits are still out there, that he has not received justice yet. And on top of not receiving justice, his girlfriend, Karen Reed, was subjected to hell, and she is still being subjected to hell. So anyway, I will read the article. The article begins, John O'Keefe's ex-girlfriend believes Karen Reed is innocent. Quote, nothing was adding up. This was posted a day ago, and as always, I will leave a link in the description below. This is a photo of Karen Reed and Lindsay Higgins. And before I begin, guys, I just want to say, what are the odds that John O'Keefe's girlfriend, her last name is Higgins, spelled exactly like Brian Higgins' last name? What is the universe trying to tell us? And what is Lindsay Higgins saying? She is saying that she believes Karen Read is innocent. Lindsay Higgins and Karen Read are now good friends. Lindsay Higgins is being brave here. She is speaking up. She is doing what she believes is right. And we read some of her words in those screenshots. This is a woman who is driven by love and support, and she clearly wants the truth to come out. And she does not believe that the official narrative adds up, right? Like, what is the universe trying to tell us when Lindsay Higgins is coming forward in support of Karen Read to say Karen Read is innocent, that Karen Read did not kill Lindsay Higgins' ex-boyfriend, John O'Keefe? And all of us who have been following this case, a majority of us believe that Brian Higgins had a huge role in what happened to John O'Keefe. Again, I just keep saying it. What is the universe trying to tell us? What are the odds? Higgins, what are the odds, guys? And sure, some of you might think it's a coincidence. I don't. I'm telling you, these things happen for a reason. There is such a thing as synchronicity. These things happen for a reason. And you know, it's almost like, could John O'Keefe be communicating from the other side? You know, could he? I'm just saying, guys, like, it might sound crazy, but what are the odds that one of the prime suspects to us in the Free Karen Read community, one of the prime suspects is, his last name is Higgins, and John O'Keefe's ex-girlfriend, her last name is Higgins, and she is coming forward to say Karen Read did not do this? All right, I'm going to keep reading. A one-time girlfriend of Boston police officer John O'Keefe shared her thoughts on the case against Karen Read in an interview with NBC's Dateline. Lindsay Higgins says she dated O'Keefe for about 6 months. Quote, "He was just such a gentleman, you know, walked me home," end quote, she told Dateline. Quote, "Just really, really kind," end quote. She first learned of his death while she was in Florida, she said. Quote, "My phone was ringing nonstop. My texts were going off, and I looked at my phone, and one of my friends was like, 'Did you hear about John O'Keefe? He died,'" end quote, Higgins recalled. Read was charged with second-degree murder, manslaughter while operating under the influence, and leaving the scene of a crash resulting in the death of O'Keefe, who was found, I think it's a typo, who was found outside a house in Canton, Massachusetts in January of 2022. Prosecutors say she hit him with her SUV after a night of drinking, while her defense team argued she was framed as part of a conspiracy. Higgins believes Read is innocent. Quote, "Nothing was adding up," end quote, she said. Quote, "I was watching every news story. I was seeing what was going on online and the stories coming out. And I was like, I don't think she hit him. It doesn't make any sense to me," end quote. And pulling away from the article, guys, I've said this before. I, too, was watching some of the news stations talking about this case. I was reading some of the articles talking about this case before the trial began. And I just kept looking at John O'Keefe. I kept looking at him, and I kept seeing the photos of him and Karen Read. And and I kept rewinding what the state of Massachusetts was saying that Karen Read did. And as I've said, it hit close to home because I live here. And it wasn't adding up for me either. Something was fishy. Something was not right. And then as I dove in and I learned about alternative theories, I learned about what people were saying through social media. And then I learned about how ARCA conducted acts of reconstruction. And then the trial itself was so revealing. It's and again, multiple lawyers following the case, multiple lawyers following the trial. So many of them asked the question, why did the state even bring this case forward? Why did the state of Massachusetts even bother to bring this case forward when there were so many contradictory statements? So much evidence was mishandled. Evidence was covered up. Evidence was manipulated. Okay, I'm talking about lawyers watching this case and asking the question, what was the point of prosecuting Karen Read like this when the evidence does not support the narrative? And here is Lindsay Higgins saying the same thing. You know, she's not coming out in defense of the state, you know? She's not coming out like defensive because this was her ex-boyfriend and maybe she loved him or maybe she cared about him and she's offended by what Karen Read is being accused of. No, like she chose to think for herself. Lindsay Higgins chose to think for herself. Like I chose to think for myself, like the lawyers following this case chose to think for themselves, and so many others in the Karen Read community, Turtle Boy community, so many of us took the effort, the time, and the energy to think for ourselves and put the pieces together for ourselves because it was clear that the prosecution was lying. Continuing to read. Read's trial this summer ended with a hung jury. A retrial is scheduled for January. Massachusetts' highest court is considering her appeal to dismiss the charges of murder and leaving the scene. Higgins says she started attending hearings with Read after contacting her on Facebook. Quote, I said, hi, Karen, I don't know if you know me or not, but I used to date John, and I think I dated him right before you, and I just want to say that I don't think you did it, and I support you, end quote, Higgins said. Quote, and she wrote me back. Ever since then, we just became closer and closer. And that's the end of the article. Yeah, so again, I will leave the link in the description below. And I will not report on the Dateline. I understand that a lot of other channels live streamed that Dateline episode, the Nor'easter Karen Read episode. I have no interest in supporting Dateline or any news station that chooses to sensationalize this case. I understand that Karen Read consented to that interview, and so too did Lindsay Higgins. And I understand that perhaps there is some importance, in communicating and getting the story out with these mainstream media outlets. But I am of the opinion that a lot of mainstream media outlets did Karen Read wrong. They did her so wrong in how they continued to document this case in favor of the prosecution. And the sensationalism, I'm just saying, guys, the sensationalism to me is in and of itself bullshit. It's exploitation. It's taking this case and exploiting it, getting the clicks and the views, it's like anything else. It's like anything else the mainstream media does. They want you to watch it, and they want you to be emotionally manipulated by it. And if that Dateline interview is helpful for Karen Reed, great. But I will still not be talking about it. But I am grateful for Lindsay Higgins for coming forward. And guys, I still say that this is synchronicity. It's synchronicity at work here. Okay? I am of the opinion that the universe is trying to tell us something here. The universe is trying to tell us something here. And I'm not saying I know. I'm not saying I know this with certainty. I'm saying I've experienced enough synchronicity in my life that it means something. You know, there are signs everywhere. So anyway, I will leave the link in the description below. Thank you to Lindsay Higgins for being brave enough to support Karen Reed. I have a lot of respect for Lindsay Higgins and a lot of respect for Karen Reed. And I really hope that justice comes through for all of them, for Karen Reed, for John O'Keefe, their families and their friends, and for Lindsay Higgins. Thank you for watching.